let's go through the last 3 weeks. For the EURUSD, we were very bearish on the weekly, so I was looking for sales once price hit this fair value gap. So we can look from Monday what happened during the week. So I was expecting price to come and mitigate this fair value gap here. And so on the daily, there, so I expected Monday to mitigate that as well on the 1 hour. Yes, mitigate this, make a downtrend, which it took liquidity of Monday here. Created a few fair value gaps here. This is a market structure shift, so this would have been a very nice trade. I like to just make sure the stop loss is on a swing, high. Created another market structure shift here. That means price is going for deeper liquidity. So let's get rid of this, and then let's look at where the price went for the next week. So the next week formed an internal candle. So let's look at what was actually happening. Look, it didn't even touch the fair value gap on Thursday, but the whole week from Monday, the whole week was just consolidation. And when the market is consolidating, we just stay out of it. Okay, we mark out the Mondays. The Mondays give us the shell of the whole week. This is the buy side liquidity. This is the sell side liquidity. So from Thursday, what is our range from last week? This is our range from here to this high. Even though it's one candle, it's still our range, and we don't seem to be moving away from that range. And then this is our mini range that we are dealing with. So if we are currently bearish, but currently on a pullback, and as I said, I don't trade on pullbacks. I just wait for the market to realign. So during this week, I was just watching the chart, and as you can see, it's just making, it took this liquidity. And the reason I don't trade pullbacks is because of this kind of manipulation. Because if in my normal setup, if we were going with the trend, it would have just taken this sell side liquidity and made a market structure shift, and I would have entered here if it was with the trend. But you see, with the counter trend, it takes so much liquidity. It took this sell side liquidity, and then again it came and took this. second time, you see, and then it skipped mitigating this fair value gap. So we get to Friday, it takes buy side liquidity. This buy side liquidity that is taken, it doesn't form a good market structure shift here. This is a market structure shift, but I usually like to, especially if it's on a Thursday or a Friday, it's already late in the week. So if it makes this fair value gap, I just watch it and see if it will make a second fair value gap, and that will be my entry. It's a bit conservative, but it saves you so much. So it didn't create that, so I was out of the market, and then it came, took this, made a market structure shift here. Yeah, this had already been mitigated. So once it took this market structure shift, I'm expecting a mitigation, and then by the time this was happening, it was already on Friday. On Friday, I just don't like forcing trades, so I was out of that market, and that was the whole week. There was a lot of consolidation here last week. Let's go to this week. On the daily, let me get rid of this buy side and these drawings. So we finally mitigated the weekly fair value gap on Wednesday. So we mark out our buy side liquidity and sell side. This is to show us where we are and what we expect based on Monday. Monday gives us like the shell of the week, how the week is going to turn out. So as you can see, we are still buying, very bullish, again very bullish, and then finally we hit this fair value gap, and once we hit the fair value gap, we started making market structure shifts. There's a mini fair value gap here, but considering that the trend is very bullish at the moment, I wouldn't like to take a trade with the first market structure shift and fair value gap. So I had to, I needed to wait, and as you can see, we didn't form any other fair value gap, so there was no entry for me. But we are currently forming a fair value gap right now, but considering it's Friday, there is a very high probability that it's coming to mitigate this fair value gap, and I'll just wait for next week and then we can see. On the GU, on the monthly, we are bearish, but currently in a pullback. As you can see, we are mitigating fair value gaps and pushing upwards, but here is where we see that the refusal to keep moving forward. We are also in the premium zone of the sales, so this area is where we need to start seeing a reversal to realign with the trend. Okay, so we see this very well on the weekly. We create a lower high, higher high, and then a market structure shift here. Okay, and then we create a lower high, which is like a confirmation that the trend is now shifting to bearish. So I was currently looking for bearish setups. Actually, this month I was looking for bearish setups Let's go to the hourly and see what happened that week. So on the 1 hour this week, I was expecting price to hit the weekly fair value gap, this one, and then have a market structure shift, and it was very good. It actually, the market, this is our buy side liquidity. The market actually took buy side liquidity and started forming lower lows, lower highs, but I think I was then stopped out. I entered around here for the sales, but then I was stopped out, and that was the loss for that week. And I can now see that yes, the market was bullish to come and mitigate this fair value gap, but maybe I should have waited for the market to actually inverse this fair value gap before I entered. Yeah, or alternatively wait for the market. This is a lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. I should have waited for a lower high to be created and form another fair value gap for me to be sure that the market is shifting. So that was the trade for the week, and then the market just kept on buying towards now the daily fair value gap that we saw earlier. And at the same time, the market made a market structure shift here and formed this fair value gap. On the daily, we are now buying. The market structure has shifted. We are now bullish. Let's mark out our buy side liquidity and sell side liquidity. So the market came, took out this, and since the market had already shifted on the daily, this would have been a very good entry here, because this is also a market structure shift, or this one, whichever you consider a swing. Let's go now to this week. I'll just remove the replay. So since the daily has already shifted market structure, as you can see, it also took this out. So technically in the GU we are still buying, very, very bullish, but in the rest of the currency pairs we are still selling. So if you're a swing trader, the entry from last week would have still held, but seeing it come to 1:2 and then reverse on you to almost taking you out, I don't think this is, considering you had held the whole weekend and then it comes, almost takes you out and then resumes. I think that would have been very, very hectic. For now, the market is currently on a pullback, so I'll just wait and see if we are continuing to buy or we are finally resuming the bearish trend. So let's meet next week.